Chapter 44. Audacious. In Yangzhou City, on City Avenue there was a huge crowd gathered. The atmosphere was extremely lively and noisy. 6 people, plus Chu Lan, there is still one spot left. That's much too scary. Each and every one of them is extremely strong. I will definitely take the final spot, said a young man in the crowd confidently. In your dreams, they already chose the 8th one, it's Feng Qian. Feng Qian is at the 9th Qi layer. He's much stronger than anyone else within the clan. A moment ago, he didn't insist on participating, but that's just that he didn't feel like it. He has now made his move because he was annoyed that he was not selected sooner. How could you possibly fight against Feng Qian? Said the person standing beside him. Scary, said the young man. When the young man heard the name, Feng Qian, his face changed in a flash. He felt extremely depressed. It seemed that this time, the clan head wasn't going to choose him. The Nalan clan had always organized an annual tournament, however this year, apart from the 4 biggest clans, and external clans who were not located in Yangzhou City, outstanding disciples belonging to other small clans could also participate. However, these small clans were only allowed to send 8 disciples to participate in the tournament. On the same basis, the clans within the city, the Nalan clan, the Jiyu clan, the Lin clan and the Wen clan were also allowed a maximum of 8 disciples. These disciples were supposed to represent the most outstanding disciples of Yangzhou City. This had made participating in the tournament a real honor and privilege which would allow outstanding disciples of all clans to show their abilities to a large number of people. Unfortunately for some people, the Nalan clan as well as the other 3 big clans had already chosen their participants. Chu Lan was chosen as one of the participants because she was extremely strong. At that moment, there were already 7 people, which meant the clan had to choose one last disciple, and this position in the tournament was most likely to be Feng Qian. Feng Qian was wearing blue robes. He was slim and had an arrogant look on his face. At that moment, he had arms folded over his chest as he walked out of the crowd and said in a cold and detached way, "That last participant is me." When people saw how arrogant he looked, they could not help but be filled with hatred and regret. Some of the younger generation wanted to duel with him and measure themselves against him, but considering his strength, they had to be careful. It seemed like they were only going to be able to watch as members of the audience. Feng Qian looked at the several hundreds of people who were present with a look of disdain. So many pieces of trash. They are all cowards. No wonder they were not chosen, and I'm the one who was chosen to participate, said Feng Qian in a spiteful tone as he started to head towards the main hall. In the main hall, there were already 7 people sitting in a calm state. These were precisely Chu Lan as well as the 6 others who had been chosen to participate. That guy is really as arrogant as the rumors say. They say that he is extremely cruel to all of his opponents and will even use diabolic methods to win. Who would dare challenge him? The consequences of challenging him would only be disastrous. He would probably cripple their cultivation, said the many people in the crowd. Even though many people hated Feng Qian, nobody dared open their mouth. Feng Qian was savage and cruel. Amongst people of the Qi layer, there were very few people who could defeat him, which made him even more arrogant and prideful. He enjoyed bullying those weaker than him. The people within the crowd had no choice but to look at him join the others in the main hall. Wait, said a loud voice. In the quiet crowd, that voice was particularly clear and loud. The crowd was surprised for a moment, and then they could see a young man approaching from the distance. This young man was wearing white robes. Even though his robes didn't look expensive, he looked clean and pure from head to toe. He was carrying a long sword on his back. His body looked sturdy but gentle. The crowd found him fascinating. He looked as limpid as water. He gave an aura of mystery to all those who laid eyes on him. His clear eyes were filled with deep, profound understanding. His appearance and age did not seem to match with his wisdom. When people in the crowd saw him, they were gasping with admiration and had a feeling of inferiority in his presence. The young man who had appeared was actually Lin Feng after having had a shower and changed his clothes. After having asked around, he had quickly learnt that there was a selection for the upcoming tournament happening, and he quickly hurried to the location. Feng Qian looked at Lin Feng, his arms still folded over his chest. He looked at Lin Feng in a disdainful way while grinning and said, "You are telling me to wait?" "Indeed," said Lin Feng, looking like he didn't understand Feng Qian's expression. He indifferently nodded. Feng Qian was still grinning and then looked at Lin Feng as if he had compassion for him, even though Lin Feng was a few years younger than him. He then smiled and said, "Do you know the consequences for making me wait?" Lin Feng smiled wryly and was a bit surprised. On the path of cultivation, there were many people who were talented and thought they were geniuses. It seemed like those kinds of people liked to show off their powers against those weaker than themselves, as if they were playing a role which had to appear noble and strong. It had become clear to him that people in this world would continue to play these roles and act foolishly for the sake of appearances. Lin Feng started walking towards Feng Qian with complete calmness on his face. The crowd was wondering what was going on and started to watch Lin Feng. Was that guy insane? He was about 16 years, so he could have only reached the 7th or 8th Qi layer, yet he still thought he could compete with Feng Qian, who belonged to one of the most powerful of the small clans in Yangzhou City, and he was even considered a genius. That young guy wanted to challenge Feng Qian, but only the most talented, the most gifted and the most outstanding disciples of Yangzhou City could compete with him. How could this unknown young man possibly fit that criteria? It looks like you also want to enter into the main hall. I really don't know if I should admire you for your courage, but what you're doing is extremely foolish. However, since you want to challenge me, I will cripple your cultivation for being foolish enough to think you are worthy to stand on the same level as me," said Feng Qian, clearly directing his hatred towards Lin Feng. The metallic sound of a sword cutting through the air filled the atmosphere and a bright light filled the space in front of Feng Qian. Immediately after, Feng Qian fell down onto the ground and began to roll around while groaning. Blood was pouring out of his mouth. He was coughing heavily, and more blood was filling his mouth. Feng Qian raised himself to the point he was kneeling on one knee. Blood was unceasingly spilling out of his mouth. Drops of blood were endlessly falling onto the ground. Lin Feng simply put his sword back into his sheath with a clink sound. You are listening to Peerless Martial God audio on light novel Aloud. The people within the crowd just stared at what had happened in shock. They were all trembling with excitement and fear. Had Lin Feng defeated Feng Qian in a single strike? How powerful, said a man while shivers ran down his spine. Not only was he about 16 years old, but Feng Qian had been unable to carry out one single attack against him. Lin Feng had even shown mercy and had been gentle when using his sword, otherwise, Feng Qian would have immediately been killed. You really do talk crap, way too much crap. You should be more careful with your words, said Lin Feng in a cold tone while not even looking at Feng Qian, who was behind him, kneeling on the floor. Then, Lin Feng continued walking towards the main hall. Feng Qian was looking at Lin Feng with disdain, and in the end Lin Feng didn't even give him another glance as he wasn't worth it. While looking at Lin Feng from behind, Feng Qian had a million thoughts at the same time. You really do talk crap, way too much crap. You should be more careful with your words. He continued to repeat the words that Lin Feng said to him. The path of cultivation is full of surprises. The sky is vast, and the ocean is deep, who knows exactly how vast and deep they are. The world could be flipped upside down in instances. Some cultivators believed themselves lucky to be such strong geniuses only to find they are only small fish in a very large pond. To keep being lucky, to remain a strong genius, a cultivator would need to possess a strong willpower and determination towards training. A cultivator like Feng Qian of the 9th Qi layer was like a frog at the bottom of a well. He could not see how vast the world really was. Therefore, being arrogant and provoking wasn't a good behavior to adopt, and Lin Feng's sword had taught him a long-deserved lesson. Strength was everything in this world. While struggling to get onto his feet, Feng Qian was looking at Lin Feng's back and was bowing. He wasn't holding awe and veneration for Lin Feng, it was rather that he felt thankful that Lin Feng had taught him that his arrogance could cost him his life and gave him a great lesson. The road of cultivation is not one in which you should provoke others. It was also not one in which you could allow yourself to be provoked without retaliation. That event had made a lot of people feel puzzled, but some people's expressions were resplendent as if they had understood what had just happened in front of them. However, Lin Feng hadn't noticed these expressions. He wasn't completely in the main hall yet when the 7 others' expressions suddenly changed when they saw him approaching. Chu Lan was particularly surprised. In the Whistle Wind restaurant, she had seen him and obviously knew a lot about Lin Feng. She also knew everything about the problems Lin Feng had within the Lin clan. I will be participating in the tournament this year, Lin Feng said, sounding relaxed yet strict while looking at Chu Lan. He was bold and straightforward, he insisted that he had to participate. How audacious, said a disciple sitting next to Chu Lan while slapping the table, which made the wooden table crack in a loud bang. Who do you think you are? Thinking that you can actually talk to Chu Lan as you wish, said the angered disciple. He was called Wu Xiao. Everybody was fantasizing about the beautiful Chu Lan. Besides, she was extremely powerful and was at the pinnacle beyond the 9th Qi layer. Feng Qian's power was nothing in comparison. He had seen how Lin Feng had defeated Feng Qian in one hit and how easy it had seemed for Lin Feng. He had thus noticed how strong Lin Feng was. Therefore, at that moment, Wu Xiao's behavior was just an empty show of strength to gain Chu Lan's attention and make her like him. Lin Feng glanced at Wu Xiao and then walked towards him, after which Wu Xiao immediately stood up and released a strong qi, ready to engage in a battle. The white and dazzling light of the sword flashed and stabbed Wu Xiao so quickly that he had no time to react at all. He gave a horrible shriek, not able to strike back. Speed. After having broken through to the Ling Qi layer, Lin Feng's swordplay had become incredibly quick and agile, even more so than before. Lin Feng grabbed Wu Xiao's neck and carried him to the entrance of the main hall. Why would a piece of trash like you want to participate in the tournament? How pointless. While saying this in a loud voice, Lin Feng kicked Wu Xiao's body, which flew out of the main hall and rolled down the steps onto the ground of the main square where the crowd was. End of chapter 44. Hope you guys enjoy the chapter. Please consider subscribing and hit that bell button for future updates.